Hi, everyone. My name is Rodney Turner. I'm the chair of the Civilian Review Board. And our responsibility will be to look at different models of civilian review boards to see what can be implemented here in Arlington County. This is a growing trend over the last several decades. In fact, the state of Virginia is looking at implementing these across the state. There's legislation in the General Assembly now about doing this. And we're going to be looking at different models. There are models that consist of civilians having a great deal of authority to do investigations. Other models don't allow that. We're going to look and see what can be done here, as well as what our budget will allow. And so we look forward to hearing from you, the public, about what you think will work for this county and what you think would be effective going forward.
Rodney, there's a lot of interest in many supportive comments about, the need for a civilian review board. And with an emphasis of being independent on the police department, the ability to take action, to be transparent, to be diverse and inclusive. Do you have any reflections to share at this very early stage of your work on that kind of passion that's coming from the community on this?
First of all, we hear you and we understand. There's a reason why this subcommittee or this issue is being addressed in Arlington at this time. And so we do, without presaging our work, or the end result of our work, we will look at various models that will look at the issues of transparency, authority that the Civilian Review Board has, whether it can do its own investigations or at least authorize such investigations, to see what works with our community. And we will be having, as Brian mentioned earlier, or I believe Julie mentioned earlier, that we will be having a public session for our work to sort of sunlight issues we're dealing with, to get some feedback from the public. And so we are well aware of the interest in this issue, not only in our community, but across the country. And just so you know, to give you an idea of the composition of our committee, a subcommittee, it's not just me, obviously. I have two very capable members as well, one of which is Kim Phillips, a founding member of the Arlington for Justice, a newly formed group that's focusing on public safety issues in our neighborhood, seeking to reform the Arlington County criminal justice system. And we also have a member of the Arlington County Police Force, Captain Latasha Chamberlain, on our subcommittee. So we have a broad spectrum of perspectives represented on the subcommittee, but we cannot do it all. So once again, I'm happy to hear about the enthusiasm for this issue. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you. And you mentioned earlier some action in Richmond and activity. What kind of timeline is that on? And, can you?
Well, I can't speak to that. I know there are bills in both chambers of the General Assembly. And so it suggests that something will come out of there eventually. I think one bill, just as a quick overview, suggests that these kind of boards should be compulsory in all jurisdictions. The other one is more permissive. And there are some other details of differences between the two bills. But the bottom line is the state as a whole is concerned about these kinds of issues. I don't have to tell you what's happening in the news these days. And we're not the first one to do this. There are a number of jurisdictions that have done these kind of boards in the past to varying degrees of success. We're going to look at those other examples to see what fits best here. But back to your question, I believe something will be coming out of the General Assembly at some point in time. I would expect, if not by the end of this session or this year, by next year. I mentioned the General Assembly's work, or the bills in the General Assembly, trying to implement requirements or maybe options to allow jurisdictions in the state to do civilian review boards. It's not a requirement for us to go forward. We're not waiting on what they're doing. I just mentioned it as an example of a trend that's coming. I also mentioned in my comments these boards have been in session and been working across the country for decades. We're now looking at it, prompted largely by the recent events that's happened since the death of George Floyd, and citizens' evaluation of, hey, we have some issues, we can do things better. And so, in bottom line, we're not waiting on the General Assembly. We don't need permission from them at all. But the larger point was, we're not alone in this issue. And so I hope that clarifies. If you have any further questions, please let us know.